Michael woke up one day and his legs, they just give, and he just couldn't run anymore. But legs don't just give in till you've been running exhaustively for so long that your body refuses to participate in your shenanigans. Michael Townley's run as the most infamous stick-up artist in the North came to a dramatic stop as he betrayed his friends in a plea deal with FBI agent Dave Norton. After a life of trigger happiness and peacocking his skills at exploiting human morals, he couldn't go on. But he also couldn't let go of his past glories. Whether you've realized it or not, Michael DeSanta didn't unravel as his story progressed. He was emotionally stunted as a mid-20s adrenaline junkie. Just one phrase described his midlife crisis. Nah, go fuck yourself. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. I hope you are happy, staying hydrated and healthy. In this video, I will explore the character of Michael Townley, later on known as Michael DeSanta, and investigate the possibilities of him being a better person. He is honestly too complicated to explore in a 20-minute video. He is too complicated to explain what went wrong and when it all went ill-fated. There isn't a singular point that definitively shows a pivotal point where his life became like a turd, rocketing to the blades of ceiling fans. His life is more like a railway system he designed, or his idol designed, and he kept making bad decisions all his life. It just wasn't his childhood, just not his mid-20s, or just his heister, or just his burnt-out parenting era, or his Grand Theft Auto era reliving his past glories. Until his family left him, he remained emotionally stunted. Arguably, even after his gig with Solomon Richards, he remained emotionally stunted. He only redirected his important rage towards distractions to keep himself proud of his own achievements. He did not become enlightened. He only stopped committing multiple counts of every fucking crime under the sun. That is not emotional maturity. That is called restraint. You do not get a medal for every woman you do not rape. But you do get a lawful penalty for every person you kill and rape. The more you hurt others, the more you leave a stain on yourself, for every sin will be answered. Even in the smallest of ways, they will be answered. Perhaps it should be enough when I explore every phase of his life and understand how not to be Michael DeSanta. Michael was born in 1965 or 1968. Every angle indicates he spent his childhood years in the Midwest, not having the luxuries and privileges that his own children have, and he grew up deep in the deprived environments of a trailer park with his parents. Michael's upbringing was scorned by his alcoholic and physically abusive father, who later abandoned him. As a child, as a child of a physically abusive husband and father, I can tell you his mother, who also abandoned him, had also physically, emotionally, and may have, but it's not evident, sexually abused a young Michael Townley. He was also told numerous versions of why his father left, which included, but was not limited to, him skipping town, being run over by a train, and joining the Navy. Each of those versions display a range of loathing among his family. In his high school years, Michael was an acclaimed quarterback for an all-state football team, putting on an amazing performance during his games and occasionally had his picture in a local newspaper. Michael's lack of familiar love had driven him to seek glory and fame among his peers. He desired to be recognized as someone legendary, someone who exudes confidence and brilliance. Still, his temperament issues and constant injuries ultimately forced him to quit. He was always pulled towards a darker side of life, as he internalized abuse as an acceptable method of survival. Like everyone, he was consciously against crimes and wrongdoings. Even so, unlike everyone, he subconsciously fancied endangering people's lives and general derangement. Oh, I wish Michael Townley helped against the idea of trailer trash kids. Good for being good for being only scum of the earth. But there is a reason why this stereotype exists. I'm really sorry about that. In my early teens, I met an agender person called Froggy on Facebook. Froggy was raised in a trailer and was raising themselves as an average student in a public school. They was usually kind and cute, but I had missed subtle signs of sociopathy. Everyone is, in fact, at least a little bit violent. However, sociopathy is a well defined condition and shouldn't be a miss. Michael Townley's childhood biography illustrates a few things. Michael's sarcastic rage grew as a result of him witnessing abuse and either witnessing and or participating in bullying at school. Michael grew up in a religious community and away from his parents a lot. They tried to be good, the religious community, but communal good is only as good as the practices of the community. Midwestern religious societies are notoriously ignorant and envious of people less than others, or how they perceive them. Michael has a strong hatred for abusive fathers, which was best displayed when he asked his own son, "Why don't you hit me?" Sorry. He had definitely witnessed his father physically abusing his mother, and from an early age, and always wanted to hit him back with every nerve of his being. Michael sought euphoria from materialistic and vain achievements because he never had luxuries. But given his rage, he never had enough until one job didn't go well and he realized he couldn't continue being a stick-up artist. Michael loved himself, loved his sarcasm, loved his rage, and loved the idea of being recognized as someone great. Nothing seemed more glorious than the reign of famous criminals and criminal organizations that were rampant during the 1920s and 80s, from Al Capone's riot against prohibition, the rise of NY mafias, Leopold and Loeb, train robbers, charismatic serial killers, and most importantly, bank robbers like John Dillinger, Patty Hearst, Stanley Rifkin, Bonnie and Clyde, and so many more. Michael appears to have lacked any morally positive guide during his childhood, and he internalized the sheer demoralization and glorification of cinematic crimes. Throughout his life, he never strayed away from the limelight. This would come to a stop after he was kicked off his high school football team, and he kept trying to seek glory or go out in a blaze of glory. This led him to be imprisoned twice by the age of 20, and he began executing heists at the age of 23 years old. I can only speculate that he adopted a lot of skills and experience with older prisoners whom he charmed with his filmy sarcasm. But I can speculate quite confidently that he was influenced very heavily, and he learned brilliantly and efficiently. He pulled $10,000 in Garza City in 1988, and adjusted to inflation, it would be almost $20,000 in 2013, even more in the current day. During his heist, he became acquainted with many people, most notably Lester Crest, Trevor Phillips, Amanda Townley, Brad Snyder, and Dave Norton. He became attached to his family, especially after Tracy Townley and James Townley were born. It's not entirely explored, but I'm sure he didn't want his children to be abused and neglected by like he was, so he aimed higher than ever. In his pursuit for extravaganza, in the harsh winters of the Midwest, he realized he was exhausted and could not go any further. By some stroke of luck, in 2004, he met a young Dave Norton and made a clandestine agreement to betray his crew, especially Trevor Phillips, whom he wanted gone for good. This chicanery brought an end to his heist era, but his troubles were far from over. Michael DeSanto hoped a clean slate would mean a better opportunity to sketch his life again, but neither his pencil was reliable nor was the duster clean. His own behavior and actions hurt his family, and Dave Norton couldn't keep the lies straight. Because of Dave Norton's mistakes, Michael was forced to send him an uncertain 5-figure monthly payment to silence the people in the know. They may not know enough, but FIB agents were smart enough to figure out any scheme by even a single slip. Dave Norton had to make sure Michael DeSanto was not discovered, even if people realized Brad Snyder was not in maximum security prison and was being contacted by Trevor Phillips. Dave kept up a good relationship with Michael for years, and even when Michael was defrosting, Dave still respected Michael enough to cover him as much as possible without him being burned himself. But Michael was a problem to himself and more so than his friend Dave. Michael promised no more trouble. It is unclear how much people realize that Michael is not a nice person and that he negatively affected everyone to be morally corrupt. Also, as much as Michael pretends to be a good guy, he is not. He merely behaves like he is good, but noticing his words and body language reveals that he is the sole reason for all his problems. He can blame the world, he can hate himself, and shout at any inconvenience or displeasure, but he will never blame himself, and he never blamed himself. Let's just look at his underlying reasons for the aforementioned actions. He seeks cinematic glory and is addicted to adrenaline rushes. Michael DeSanta is the type of self-hating person who loses himself in 80s action comedy maladaptive daydreaming. But Michael Townley was the type of person who would please himself by recounting his freshly successful heights. No matter what he wanted for his family, he was attracted to the thrill of heists and action. Yeah, so what did he do? He gambles away by day trading. He even cheats on his wife and even gets caught to cause problems so he can argue about something. He mistreats and neglects his children. He overdosed on alcohol and licked his son's weed. Oh God. He sarcastically disapproved of his children and never supported his children, holding them to unrealistic standards. Because of his manic depression, he began visiting con artist psychotherapist Isaiah Friedlander, who made his condition worse with sponsored drug and horrible shallow advice. Therapy was not working, and his tension with Amanda escalated, reaching a boiling point where he fortuitously, why is that a hard word to say? Fortuitously met Franklin Clinton. The first meeting of Michael and Franklin was straight up out of a movie. No sane protective father would legally implicate himself by preventing a repossession by threatening the employee to crash into the place of his work. That one sentence contains at least one felony and two misdemeanors. Besides, this was a car his son loved and would not want damaged, even if it was stolen. He still did not want it damaged. The first meeting was a catalyst to a borderline insane, cold-blooded series of criminal damage, heists, murders, onslaughts, espionage, assassination, and acts of terrorism. You know his story, and now you know his background. But do you know the problem? How about how not to be Michael DeSanta? Michael DeSanta, by the end of his story in GTA 5, displayed the start of being a better person. Not a good person, but a better person than he was before. The number of mistakes he made is uncountable. His evil deeds were like electrons to anodes, and no matter how much he wanted to go towards the positive sides, his tendencies veered him out towards the negative sides. The end result is his fantasy of 80s action films, and I'm pretty sure Plasma doesn't have, Plasma TVs, they don't have those CRT guns, I guess. I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've studied physics. That's not true. Oh shit. He could have stuck by the religious people in his life, in his community, as in his childhood. That would have made him a priest rather than a stick-up artist, and his sins would be vastly less exaggerated, even though not less, yes, but still less in number. He could have stayed sane, he could have stayed level-headed and continued his walk of fame as a famous quarterback. He could have made an honest dollar even if it didn't get him out of the trailer park, even if it didn't get him out of the trailer park. Why did I write this twice? He wouldn't have had blood on his hands. He could have married a modest woman who isn't a cowardly hypocrite. Blaming adultery on the devil is far from a pseudo-open relationship full of stringiness and bitter hatred. He should have supported his children regardless of their deficits and weaknesses. A carton of toys and a big flat-screen TV is no replacement for a loving father. He should have been honest with his friends who would have helped him become a better person. God knows I lean on my friends to improve as much as possible. It has made me a better person. Yes, it has been a slow progress, but progress has been achieved by me. If he was introspective and willing to change, he would have been a good person within a good while. Trauma takes a long time to resolve, not dissolve, and some never heal properly. But cognitive behavioral therapy and eye movement desensitization and reprocessing definitely help cut off generational trauma. For now, I will only comment on the state we first met Michael. Michael had ample time yet little motivation to better himself, even though the reasons were apparent as we saw in the starting cutscene of father-son. His daughter and wife argued in the background while he disassociated. But what if he took the initiative in that very moment by being enraged by the squeals? His wife would have appreciated even a gesture that he was sincere about her. She loved him and wanted to be seen and appreciated for the person she was. His daughter would respect him more if he showed approval for her talents and desires. Yes, he still would have had to chase after his son's kidnapper, but then he wouldn't have had hated. He wouldn't have been hated by his son as much as being so petty and narrow minded. Even then, he had an opportunity to be a good husband and father to his family. The first step would have been to be self aware and accept his past actions were horrible and his behavior to have underlying issues and is a cycle of self destruction. He was not a good person, but every person has the right to redeem themselves. The second step would have been to address the core and underlying issues. He should have taken an accounting approach because God knows he was irresponsible with money being mortgaged up to his eyeballs. A good accountant minimizes expenses and then expands interest and revenue. In his case, he needed to stop his toxic cycle of self-hatred and then emotionally express his needs and desires healthily to his wife. They could have been bored together or sought thrill together, but they would have loved to do everything together, communicating healthily. No relationship is perfect, and no couple is 100% morally sane. Michael and Amanda were both out of their place in their new home, but they were home together. The third step would have been to bring in change to himself. Let me tell you about a particular case of Cornelius Michael Anderson III, a man who was supposed to be imprisoned for 13 years for armed robbery at Burgertown, I believe, or yeah, Burgertown, but he never went to jail because someone forgot. And Mr. Anderson vowed to change his life for the better. He only needed an intervention to set his life straight. When he was supposed to be released, prison guards realized he wasn't there and county sheriffs were dispatched to arrest him. In court, Judge Terry Lynn Brown decided he had rehabilitated himself, how prison is theorized to change a person. So, Mr. Anderson never spent a day in prison to be a good, functioning member of society. Right? Yeah. Michael DeSanto could have started the first day of his rehabilitation by holding himself accountable for all his atrocities and theft. Then empathize with the victims of his crimes, including himself, his family, and the families of the deceased and the hurt. After that, he could have built an honest, healthy relationship with his family and practiced financial responsibility together. That would be hard. He could have actively listened to, supported, and approved of his children's dreams without controlling and dissuading them from their interests by fuming all the time. It is extremely important for people like Michael to recognize triggers and avoid erupting at such incidents. There are early warnings and breath control exercises that can further help reduce the chances of erupting towards his family. After that, he could spend some quality time with his family by partaking in activities like going shopping, golfing, cycling, cruising, and dining, and then spend some quality time with Amanda. Verbal affection, acts of services, and physical affection. It is crucial that Michael should regularly check in on his family to make sure he knows the people he calls family, because that is quite important. People honestly sometimes forget. The fourth step would have been to recognize he needed professional help and understanding which therapist is best for him, because Isaiah Friedlander was not the right person to treat him. Better yet, joining a group therapy session is effective in remembering the humanity within ourselves. The fifth step is setting goals for his family, practicing mindfulness, challenging negative thoughts, and forgiving himself. Meditation and yoga are not the only methods for forgiveness. Others include jogging, cycling, and swimming. Then setting a fulfilling yet green diet to feel good physically. And of course, avoid drugs, including caffeine. This would have taken decades, but progress is necessary, even if it's slow. I wish I could have been proud of my work today, but I stuttered all the time, and I doubt I explored enough of his personality writing for 2 days, because I don't think a person can be thought of for only 2 days and then be explored totally so that he can be a better person. There is much more to a person's life and much more to dissect when it comes to mistakes. So I must make intricately descriptive essays of every phase of his life so I can explain it all and definitively answer the question, how not to be Michael DeSanto. I hope you have a good day, and actually there is a little bit of last request I need to make you. Please do subscribe to my channel and like this video if you've liked it. I need support, and honestly I am having to make this content because I desperately need some patronage, donation. I am begging you for a significant portion of money from my tuition of IGCSE. Fucking hell. IGCSE, yeah. My family is not supporting me, and I am forced to make videos like this. I have been planning to make videos like this. It's just I never find myself confident enough. I never find myself good enough to make videos. In fact, I lost my web camera. I don't have a GPU to work with. There's so many things to complain about, but fuck that. I cannot complain all my life and just beg. So right now I'm gonna deliver as good quality content as possible, because I know this is shit. In fact, this is not even acceptable by my standards. I stuttered all the fucking way. But please, if you like the video and you're watching up to this point, stay here for a while by subscribing, like this video, watch the other videos I'm going to be making in the future. There's going to be at least 5 for Michael, I see 3 for Trevor, 4 for Franklin, and 2 for Lester Crest, and 2 for Dave Norton, obviously. There's a lot to learn from characters that Rockstar makes, because these are intricately perfect. These characters, I would say, aren't impeccable, but goddamn near so. So there's a lot to dissect. There's a lot to talk about these characters. And always remember, Vivamus Moriendum Est.